My best friend, Nina, was practically vibrating with excitement. "You have no idea how lucky you are," she whispered. "The guy I found for you is one of the most successful entrepreneurs in the city. Everyone respects him. And the craziest part? He noticed you the moment he saw you." The second she said those words, something impossible happened. Transparent comments suddenly floated across my vision, like a live stream chat only I could see. "It's real! She's talking about Adrian Blake, the legendary CEO. He's impossible to approach, but he already likes her. Just text him first. Once she gets his attention, he'll take over." Well, if magical floating comments said so, who was I to argue? I somehow got Adrian's private number and immediately launched into a full-scale flirting campaign. Every morning, good morning. Every night, sweet dreams. Random memes, cute selfies, weekend invitations, ridiculous stickers, even messages that confidently declared he was secretly obsessed with me. His replies? Cold, short, professional, sometimes only one word. After 4 weeks of embarrassing myself, I finally complained to Nina. "I thought you said he liked me," she blinked. "Who?" "Adrian. Who's Adrian?" My stomach dropped. "The guy you introduced me to." Nina looked horrified. "I never introduced you to anyone named Adrian." Silence. The universe stopped functioning. I had spent an entire month aggressively flirting with a complete stranger. Not just any stranger. A famous CEO. The floating comments instantly exploded. Wait, that's not him? We've been following the wrong billionaire? Delete everything. Delete yourself. Trying to remember, Nina frowned. The guy was Ethan. Ethan Carter, I think. Ethan. Not Adrian. I slowly opened my phone. Pinned at the top of my contacts. Adrian. There wasn't an Ethan anywhere. Nina suddenly gasped. "Adrian Blake?" I nodded. She grabbed both my shoulders. "The Adrian Blake?" Another nod. "Oh no." She looked genuinely terrified. "You know, people say anyone who throws themselves at him gets completely ignored. He's famous for shutting people down. I felt my soul leave my body." Then my phone buzzed. A message from Adrian. First came a photo. Inside was the luxury watch I'd spent an entire paycheck buying for our 1-month talking stage. His message read, "You bought this?" My hands shook. I typed faster than I ever had. "I'm so sorry. Please return it." Several seconds passed. Then, return it? I panicked harder. Or throw it away. Whatever's easier. Long pause. Finally, "Don't do this again." I nearly cried inside the cafe. The floating comments tried comforting me. "He's only being nice because your father does business with him." Run. Move to another continent. Easy for them to say. They were the ones who convinced me he already loved me. Because of them, I'd sent daily love messages, called him future husband, sent dozens of embarrassing memes, and somehow survived. Barely. I confessed everything to Nina. Well, almost. "I have this friend." I replaced myself with an imaginary friend and told the whole story. When I finished, Nina stared with genuine sympathy. "Your friend should block him." Pause. "Then leave the country." Wonderful. Before I could continue my emotional collapse, Dad called. "Our joint project with Blake Technologies is almost complete. There's a celebration banquet next week." Perfect. Could this get worse? "And tomorrow," Dad added, "I need you to deliver some documents to Adrian personally." Wonderful. It could. The floating comments immediately formed a strategy. Be professional. No flirting. No gifts. Drop off the papers and disappear. That sounded survivable. The next morning, I completely changed my wardrobe. Normally, I dress stylishly. Today, plain white dress, minimal makeup, zero personality. I arrived at Blake Technologies. The receptionist immediately recognized me. "I'll call Mr. Blake's assistant for the private elevator." "No," I answered far too quickly. "The regular elevator is fine. If I use the employee elevator, maybe I could avoid him entirely." The doors opened. I stepped out, straight into Adrian. Perfectly tailored charcoal suit, coffee in one hand. Looking directly at me, "Maya?" My heartbeat stopped. "I'm just delivering documents, Mr. Blake," he frowned. "Mr. Blake? Yes?" Another pause. Why didn't you use the private elevator? I didn't want to bother anyone. His expression somehow became even harder to read. When he finally accepted the folder, I smiled politely. If that's everything, I'll leave. Instead, he asked, would you like to wait in my office? Months ago, I would have invented excuses just to spend 5 minutes there. Today? I'd rather wrestle a bear. I'm actually meeting someone. Who? A friend. Before the conversation could become even stranger, the private elevator opened. A beautiful woman stepped out of the private elevator as though she belonged there. Elegant red dress, perfect makeup, confident smile. Adrian, she said warmly. Ready for lunch? Instead of answering her, Adrian gently caught my arm. Go wait in my office. Only then did the woman finally acknowledge me. And who is she? Survival instinct kicked in. I'm just here for business. I gave Adrian a polite nod. Thank you, Mr. Blake. Wait. His voice stopped me instantly. Go to my office. It sounded less like a request and more like an order. Reluctantly, I obeyed. Inside, I perched nervously on the leather sofa. Then something on his desk caught my eye. A tiny alpaca figurine. Months earlier, I'd jokingly handed it to Adrian because I'd won it from a mystery box and thought it was unbelievably ugly. I'd assumed he'd thrown it away. Instead, it sat in the very center of his expensive walnut desk. The floating comments immediately offered their theories. He's displaying it as evidence against crazy women. It's a warning trophy. He stares at it every day to remember never to trust you. Panic 1. If he was keeping proof of my embarrassing behavior, I needed to remove the evidence. I carefully picked up the figurine. The office door opened. What are you doing? I froze. Adrian stood in the doorway. Looking directly at the figurine in my hand, nothing else came out. He walked over slowly. What are you doing? He repeated. My brain completely shut down. I thought it was mine. Silence. You thought the decoration on my desk belonged to you? I gave it to you. You did. I thought you'd thrown it away. So you wanted to take it back? The floating comments collectively lost their minds. Look, WH, ear, IT, was sitting. Center OF, THE desk. Not a drawer. SHE, really touch, HEHE hated, IT, H hated, IT. Only then did I actually look. The little alpaca wasn't hidden. It occupied the most visible spot on the desk. Adrian quietly said, you gave it to me. Yes, so I kept it. Heat rushed into my face. Put it back. I carefully returned it. Then Adrian sat down. The messages, he said. I want to apologize, I interrupted immediately. Every single one. The morning texts, the memes, the watch. I know I crossed the line. He watched me quietly. Were they bothering me? What? Were the messages bothering me? Was this a trick? You told me not to do it again. I meant the watch. My brain stopped functioning. It was too expensive. Not the messages, not the flirting, only the gift. Before I could respond, the office door opened again. The woman in red, she smiled politely. Am I interrupting? Yes. Adrian answered so naturally that she needed a full second to process it. I've been waiting. You can wait a little longer. The floating comments exploded. H he pick D her. IN front OF TH he red Dres IS not a drill. She turned toward me. I don't think we've met. I'm Maya. She's my guest. Adrian answered before I could. Guest. One simple word. Her smile noticeably cooled. Trying to escape, I stood. I should leave. Maya. I looked back. My name is Adrian. He held my gaze. You've been calling me Mr. Blake all morning. We've talked for over a month. Stop. Even the woman in red looked surprised. She quietly excused herself and left. The second the door closed, I stared at Adrian. She has access to the private elevator. Family friend, he answered immediately. Nothing more, I hadn't asked. He explained anyway. The floating comments screamed louder than ever. The celebration banquet arrived a week later. I wore the simplest navy dress I owned. No dramatic makeup, no flirting, no disasters, hopefully. Dad immediately waved me toward Adrian. You remember each other, Mr. Blake, I said. His jaw tightened. Maya? Dad smiled like the world's happiest matchmaker before disappearing. Adrian looked at me. It's a banquet. I'm being professional. You once sent me a meme at 2 in the morning calling me your future husband. I nearly fainted. I was confused. Were you? Before I could answer, dinner began. Unfortunately, the woman in red sat nearby. Halfway through the meal, she approached our table, smiling sweetly. I found something amusing. She held up her phone. Screenshots. Every embarrassing message I'd ever sent Adrian. Morning texts, goodnight texts, ridiculous memes, the watch, everything. I thought everyone might enjoy seeing how enthusiastic someone can be. The room fell silent. Dad froze. I wanted the floor to open beneath me. Instead, Adrian calmly reached for her phone, read every screenshot, then looked around the table. Yes, she sent all of these. Silence. I read every morning message before work. He scrolled. I read every goodnight message before sleeping. Another scroll. I saved the memes. Then he slowly turned his wrist. The watch. He was wearing it. I wear this. Nobody spoke. She wasn't bothering me. She was honest. And nobody told her to stop. He returned the phone. Thank you for your concern. Then calmly continued eating. The woman in red quietly walked away. The floating comments completely melted down. He just deafened. He wage, e way airing the he wage. WEMHD is an entirely. After the banquet, I escaped onto the terrace. 4 minutes later, Adrian joined me. We stood in silence. Finally, I asked, why didn't you tell me? Tell you what? To stop. He looked out across the city. At first, I thought you were unusual. Fair enough. Then I started waiting for your messages. I stared at him. You sent me a good morning text every day. I found myself checking my phone each morning. Because of me? Because of you. Everything suddenly made sense. I chased the wrong man. For the first time, the corners of his mouth almost formed a smile. Then keep making that mistake. I laughed despite myself. What about the alpaca? You gave it to me. It was ugly. It still is. But you kept it. I kept it. Months later, walking into Adrian's office felt completely different. I had my own access card. The ugly alpaca still sat proudly in the middle of his desk. The watch was still on his wrist. He finished a phone call and smiled ever so slightly. You kept everything, I said. You gave me everything, he replied. The floating comments appeared one final time. Fine, we admit it. We misunderstood him completely. Turns out the scary CEO was just a man quietly falling in love with the most chaotic woman he'd ever met. Looking back, I had spent an entire month convinced I was ruining a billionaire's life. In reality, I had accidentally been courting the right man all along.